I can be off. Oh, hello.
Hello, everyone. Thanks for joining in. We're going to give it just a few minutes for everybody to get logged in. Feel free to share your video or not, whatever you would prefer. It is fun to see your smiling faces. I like that part. Thanks for joining us, everyone. Good afternoon, good morning, happy lunch break. Glad you're joining in. We have around 120 or so parents registered for today, so we're going to give everyone a minute to get logged in. Feel free to share your video or not, whatever you would prefer. I know I like putting the faces with the names. And while we're waiting for everyone to get logged on, if you guys wouldn't mind renaming yourself, you can right click on your name. And if you want to keep your first name, but then after that, put where you're zooming in from, where you're located. I'll do that to mine. Got Allison from Illinois. Welcome. Love that. Mary Beth from Wayzata, Minnesota. Welcome. Fred from Topeka. Nancy from Boulder. Shout out to Colorado. That's where I'm from originally. Not Boulder, but Front Range area. Grew up in Fort Collins. Steve from San Diego. Look at that. Look at that outdoors. That looks lovely. This is chilly? Yeah, it's chilly here too. Okay, well, welcome everybody. My name is Heidi Simon, and I'm the Senior Associate Director of Admissions at the University of Kansas. I'm also a KU parent, and it's my joy and pleasure to talk to you today. I'm also a Jayhawk myself. And so what I love about these is coming at this from the perspective of a staff person who has I think I have a lot of answers to many of your questions as a parent, and then certainly as a Jayhawk who's experienced life here. And it's an honor to be able to talk to you all today. Just really appreciate you taking the time. If you guys wouldn't mind to change your name, if you keep your first name the same, but change your last name to where it is you're from. We love seeing where you and your students are coming from. It's great to see, gosh, both coasts represented already. Good part of Kansas represented already, the Midwest. So love seeing that. So if you wouldn't mind changing that. But welcome. Thank you so much for tuning in. And we have a few things to go over today. We're going to let you ask questions at the end, but I want to introduce a couple of great guests that are joining in today with me. Our director, Lisa Pinamani-Crest, she's here. Lisa, if you want to say hi.
Good afternoon, everyone. It's great to see you all. Thanks for taking time out of your busy schedule to be here. And Heidi and I look forward to visiting with you. As we know, your students' senior year did not quite end as planned, so we look forward to them being Jayhawks here at the University of Kansas. So thanks for joining us.
And we're super pleased today that we have our Chancellor Doug Durad. He's Doug KU. So for those of you that are looking at the videos, he's joining in today. We're super glad to have him. I know it's great to hear from top leadership as you're going through this process with your students. For those of you that maybe don't know exactly what the Chancellor does, they pretty much do everything. They oversee the entire KU system. So he is in charge of the Lawrence campus, our medical medical center campuses in Kansas City and Wichita and Salina, campuses in Overland Park at the Edwards campus, at Leavenworth, and he's very busy. And so I know he makes it a priority, though, to come into these webinars and talk to you all. So it's great, with great pleasure, that I introduce to you Chancellor Doug Gerard.
Thank you, Heidi, and good day, everyone. We go from morning to afternoon looking at where everybody's from. So it's great to have you all on, and thank you for joining us today. You may notice some technical glitches a little bit today, or at least I have on Zoom today. It's finals week, and we've got a lot going on technologically right now. So I apologize in advance if we see that, but I've experienced that once or twice today already, for the first time, actually. So first of all, congratulations to all of you and to your students to hitting this milestone of their academic careers. That's a great accomplishment for them, but also for you, having helped your student reach this point in their academic careers. And while I'm not a Jayhawk like Heidi, I actually have been at KU for 26 years now, having spent 25 or 23 of those years as a head and neck cancer surgeon at the medical center. I've been in this role now for 3 years. I also have, my son's got 2 KU degrees. My daughter's getting ready to start law school here, and my middle daughter's a nurse at the University of Kansas Health System. So we got a house full of Jayhawks here. I know what it takes to get the student to where they are right now. So congratulations to all of you. I know you've got a lot of questions, and Heidi and Lisa will have, and the rest of the team will have a lot of answers for you, but I just wanted to touch on a few things before I have to run off to the next meeting. One is particularly for those out of state, to frame a little bit where we are in Kansas in the middle of this pandemic. We both as an institution, but as a county, as a state, got on this pretty quickly, starting in really the first week of March, and then sort of progressively moved through it, as a number of other states did. But the result of that has been we have done a really good job here of managing the flow of really sick patients, and which of course was the goal. Not to stop the virus, but to moderate the number of really ill people so that our hospitals could handle that. And we've done that very effectively. And in fact, at our health system, our inpatient volume has been in the 20s related to this disease. And that number has been flat for 3 weeks. Flat to declining. So we were effective at getting in front of this and stemming the flow of getting the infrastructure in place that we needed. And we are now both at the state level and at the county and city level starting to reopen slowly. And we'll do so very carefully as we go forward. Again, our benchmark for this is actually not the number of cases, which do continue to climb because we're testing a lot more people. And those numbers will continue to climb, but really what we're watching is what's happening in the hospitals, and are they doing okay? And right now they're doing very well. So our University of Kansas Health System partners have really been the leaders in that for the region in terms of working with the state and the counties and mapping that out, as well as our federal colleagues. So we feel pretty good about that and where we are right now, and are really in the thick of planning for how we start to reopen the campus over the summer, and certainly plan to be face-to-face in the fall. And we'll be working with our health system partners to help us manage that, of what that looks like, recognizing that in the absence of a vaccine, we still are going to have this in our communities, and we're going to need to manage our way through it. So we're going to do that in a very robust fashion in association with the health system and the city, county, and the state. We did make the transition remote learning coming out of spring break. I think we did that okay. Certainly with the amount of time frame we had to do it, it was not as graceful as it could have been. And we learned a lot through that process. And what we really learned talking with our students, okay for them, but really what they miss is, to be blunt, is a little bit, if you ask them the top 10 things they miss, probably the classroom's not on that list. It's everything else that happens on campus. It's their colleagues, it's their performances, and the labs and the studios and the student governance and all the things, and athletics, all the things that they take advantage of on our campus. And so they've made that very clear, that that's really important that we get back to that and back to that as quickly as we can. So we are working our way there. We certainly anticipate we will be, as I mentioned, face-to-face in the fall. Not entirely sure what that looks like, and we will be highly flexible, knowing that we don't really control our environment, but we will be ready for all eventualities with the goal of making sure your students have absolutely the best first-year experience they can. And really launch their college careers very successfully. There's so many opportunities here at the University of Kansas, from different fields of study to experiential opportunities of undergraduate research, of travel abroad, all of which will be in flux for a little bit while we sort it out, but we'll start restarting. And the opportunity for over 600 student organizations, for example. So we will be prepared to provide a great experience for your students in the fall. I can't tell you exactly what that's going to look like right now. A lot of planning going on around that. Feel pretty good about where we are, and really good about what we think we can do over the course of the summer to prepare for that. So I know Heidi and Lisa will answer your more detailed questions, and we will have more information coming out. So we appreciate you jumping on these calls. We're trying to keep people informed as to what we're doing and how we see things evolving. And we are certainly taking a lot of learning experiences from this current semester that probably we teach somewhat even on campus going forward. I think creates some opportunities for us to meet your students how they best learn, and on the time scale that they best learn. We think that we can modify our face-to-face learning based on what we've learned this semester. So we're pretty excited about what that future brings for us. Today, so glad you could take the time to be here. See some familiar faces there too. Hey, Fred Patton, good to see you. I hope you get your questions answered and stay in touch with the team, and we'll do our best to keep communicating with you and your students so they know what to expect in the fall. So thanks for joining us. I'm sorry I got to jump off to another one, Heidi, but rock chalk, team.
Thanks, Chancellor.
Rock chalk.
Rock chalk. Thank you.
So glad that he could join us. I hope you caught in his message there a couple things. One, that we are planning to be in person in the fall. That's our goal. That's our focus. Of course, if that were to change at all, we would let you know. We don't know the exact format there. I hope you also heard in there that before his role as chancellor, how long he'd been with KU, and part of that time as a cancer surgeon. I feel like he glazes over that, but for me, this represents a couple really important things. One, this is that he comes at this from a health mindset. He is looking at the university and all its functions about what will be the best for the health of our students, our faculty, and our staff. And I know for me, as both a staff member and a parent, that has been, I don't know, something that has brought a lot of great pride and comfort in knowing that we have him in that leadership position, something a little different than I feel like a lot of other universities. And then also, he mentioned he's a cancer surgeon of ear, nose, and throat cancers. And I don't know if you noticed my awesome haircut, but I myself am recovering from Hodgkin's lymphoma, who this is an area that he specializes in the surgery for that. And with his guidance in KU Cancer Center, I just went through my full treatment and am now in complete remission. And that's a lot in part due to him and his staff and the doctors that he recommended personally to me. So I just think that shows that care of our university community and the type of research and lives that we're changing here at KU. So for me, he represents a lot of greatness of KU. And then I know, Lisa, you always like to highlight one thing that he didn't quite touch on, but is probably one of our biggest updates. So I'll turn that over to you and then get ready to share my screen.
All right. Thank you, Heidi. And yes, everyone, she kicked cancer's you know what. So she's amazing and she's healthy, and we're super glad she's got that behind her. So she's amazing and so thankful. She worked the entire time. She's quite amazing. And so what I wanted to share is that for the second year in a row, KU has a commitment to hold tuition flat. They are taking that proposal to the Board of Regents in the month of June. So tuition will not increase for the fall. So we're very excited to be able to announce that because it's keeping KU affordable for all of our students. And so just know that that is the second year in a row that we have done that. And we were, he actually usually mentions it, but he's off to another meeting. So we were very thrilled that that's what KU's proposal is to the Board of Regents in June. So the tuition that has been what it is this past year is what it will be for the fall 2020. And so that was good news to hear. And we're going to go ahead and get started with our presentation. So Heidi, we'll turn it back over to you for the first one.
Yeah, just wanted to put this up here for you to see. Hopefully everyone can see my screen okay. A great website for you to keep track of this summer, and once your students are here, is this coronavirus.ku.edu. You can get to it right from the front page of KU, but this is where we're continually putting updates. Right now, you could go to that website and you could see updates from the chancellor and our provost and some of those messages that they've been sending to faculty and staff. So I feel like, you know, as I mentioned, I'm a parent of a KU freshman, and so I definitely am sharing in on your same hopes and your same fears about what this next year will bring. I do feel fortunate because I get a lot of the information very quickly, and part of that information is what you see on that coronavirus.ku.edu to help you get a little bit of inside baseball of what we get to see and what their message is and what direction we are going. And I just want you to know too, we developed today's presentation based on your questions that you all had, questions that some parents had before you. So we developed it with that in mind. And, you know, as the chancellor said, you know, our goal is to be on campus and to be in person. And whatever format that is, if that's a hybrid of in-person and some online, or smaller class sizes, or whatever it might be, this university is committed to providing a world-class education to your student. And that is every discussion that's taken place on this campus. I want you to picture you and your student sitting right there with it, because that's what's at the center, is how do we bring the best experience, the best education that you demand and you deserve and your students deserve. And so that's where we're headed, and that's where our updates, we try to go around a sense of kind of the tactical things of what you're interested in, but also the higher level things of where we're focused as a university.
All right, as I mentioned earlier, we know your student's senior year did not end as planned, but hopefully your schools have rescheduled some kind of celebration for them, or you're planning some kind of celebration for them, and hopefully their online learning is wrapping up. I have 2 children of my own, and I cannot wait until May 21st. I appreciate teachers. I always have, but more than ever now. Homeschooling one unmotivated student is not very fun for a parent. But we're almost there. We're almost there. So thank you, parents, to everything you've been doing, and for your students as they had to adjust to the semester. I have triplet nieces who are also seniors in high school, and they will be freshmen here at the University of Kansas. And their high school graduation was moved to July 29th. And they plan to move up to Lawrence on August 1st. So they were like, good thing it didn't go much longer than that. But what I wanted to talk about is we know most of you on here, your student has already paid the enrollment deposit, but some of you are still in that, we're still kind of waiting to decide place. For those who are still deciding, we certainly hope KU will rise to the top and your student will choose to attend the University of Kansas. We just have a lot of flexibility this year. Usually we encourage students to have paid the enrollment deposit by May 1st, but your student's admission is secure. So if their enrollment deposit has not yet been paid, we just encourage them to pay that or request a deferment of the deposit if like finances have changed once they have made the decision to attend KU. And so they can do that whenever it's convenient for them. We have not put a final deadline on that. It can be all the way up until August. We certainly hope it's before then, if at all possible. For those who've already paid the deposit, we've been asked some questions about whether or not it's refundable or not. And that really depends on if your student takes next steps with the University of Kansas. So if at any time they do attend the orientation, the online orientation, which we'll get to in just a minute, or if they have selected a room in housing and then decide not to come and there's housing cancellation charges, then the enrollment deposit actually is not refundable because it's going to apply towards those fees. And so, but if they pay the enrollment deposit and they don't actually take any next steps and ask for a refund, they actually don't have to ask for a refund. They actually let us know they're not coming to KU, and then that enrollment deposit would be refundable. It's usually the deadline, it's only refundable up until May 1st. But again, this year we're being very flexible on that. If circumstances change and a student can't come, it may or may not be refundable depending on the steps they've taken. We've also been asked, how does that apply if there's deferments and things like that? And we'll get to those details in a little bit. Like if a student wants to defer a semester and they've paid the deposit, we'll get to those steps in just a little bit. But that one, like, let's say they just decide if they've already paid and they want to defer, we would prefer not to refund it at that point unless it's absolutely necessary, because we would just defer, pay it for the next semester. But we'll go into a few more details about that in a little bit. But hopefully hopefully none of that even is necessary. Your student is paying the enrollment deposit and enrolling in classes and plans to be here as a Jayhawk in the fall. But we just wanted to give you an update since some of you had asked that question.
And then on top of that, once you've paid that enrollment deposit, hopefully you have all received an email about yard signs. The yard signs that we partner with the KU Alumni Association, and this year the admissions office decided to go ahead and ship those out to all of you. And so hopefully you got that email about that. That's our little way of bringing a little bit of brightness into your students' world, and definitely encourage you to take pictures with them, have them post them with the hashtag I'm a Jayhawk, social media, the parent Facebook page. I think I've seen more pictures of them this year than ever, and it brings me so much joy seeing how excited they are. So be looking for that email and get those yard signs, and love seeing those out and about. So for orientation, I just set in a meeting yesterday with the folks in our first year experience office that coordinate online orientation, and I am so impressed with how much work they've put into making it as robust as possible. And I think they're finding there's some functionality of it that they even like a little bit better. But it will be online, and we will have the same dates that we were originally planning on having orientation, and that is in through the months of June and July. And there are a couple that they will make available in August, need be. So right now, the only ones you would see would be the June and July dates. Just so you all know, you choose orientation based on your student's major. So once you go into the website for orientation, you go in, your student actually goes in and selects an orientation based on what their major is. And so that's why you don't see all the dates just listed there, because it varies by major. There is no parent fee. So if you had already registered for orientation and then all of this came around, then they just know they are refunding those parent fees that you have already paid. But as Lisa mentioned, the enrollment deposit actually goes toward paying for a lot of the functionality of first year experience. And this year, they're having to spend some of that a little bit more on the technology side. But one of the updates they gave yesterday is any of the money that they've saved from not having in person, they're putting towards planning for next year for first year experience for programming while they're here. And of course, that starts with Hawk Week while they're here. And so be looking for that. What to expect with orientation. They will send out some information. They call them field guides. Your students will receive a couple pieces of information in the mail. They'll start those in mid-May, so that's about now. That's May 15th, this Friday. So they'll start sending out those field guides to kind of help you and your student prepare for orientation. But I got to say, a lot of the information is going to come in email, mostly to your student and to you as well. If your kid is anything like my son, where he just barely even knows he has an email, I feel like sometimes. I constantly had to remind him last summer, check your email, see what updates are there, because there's a lot of great pre-planning information that you get about orientation. And some of that is like pre-advising. They take you through and kind of show you how our core works and how to be prepared for the advising session that your student has. So be looking for that information in the mail. And then just know that during orientation, They will have some pre-recorded sessions. And also, I should say too, it's not just during orientation. They're going to have some sessions available before, during, and after, as well as a parent-focused track. So when you go to orientation with your student, most of that will be information for both of you, but there will be parent-focused track information that they'll continue to offer throughout the summer, which I think is a great addition to what they're doing. So it's not a one and done kind of thing. You're kind of still be oriented to KU throughout the summer, and so is your student. But the great thing that I was really glad to see is they are still planning on having individual advising, one-on-one advising with your student and an advisor during orientation, and it's live, and it's 60 minutes. They leave 60 minutes available for that orientation, that your student is meeting with their advisor and actually going through enrollment. I did learn yesterday too that the advisors are actually going to be the one that shares their screen and shows them how they're enrolling them. Usually the student would enroll themselves because they're trying to get them to learn how to use the system, but just based on access and the way it will all work online, they're going to enroll the student, but they're going to show the student how they're doing it. So that advising session will be in person and online. A lot of you ask, is this their advisor for the rest of time? Well, in some cases it is. In some cases, this will be their advisor for their whole time here at KU. Some students will change majors or go from a pre-designated major to a professional school, so it could change, but they will absolutely have their advisor's contact information that they have at orientation, and they will be able to contact that advisor throughout the rest of summer. So if anything changes and they need to get in touch, they will have that advisor's information. And then a big question that we always get to is about transfer credit, whether that's AP, IB, CLEP, or college transfer credit. So you can see those websites there. The biggest one this time of year, I mean, this is if it's online or in person, doesn't really matter. We always get the question about AP. How does that work? Because those scores come a little bit later. Just so you know, when the student meets with their advisor will advise them based on the information they have at that time. So if they have any college transfer work, make sure they have those transcripts available. But whatever it is at that time is what they advise them on and what classes they go into. If they get an AP score then that changes what they should be able to get into, that's when they go contact that advisor, and they will work directly with that advisor to get into the correct class. So that's always the system there. But be looking for the orientation information. They're doing a great job of keeping it student-centered, and they're going to spend time with current students still. That part will be live, and then of course their advising component will be live. There'll be sessions specifically for any of our students that are admitted to the honors program. So a lot of those things will remain the same.
And there's a lot of students who have paid the enrollment deposit and not signed up for orientation yet, so they're going to get lots of nudges from us. So we encourage your student to log on soon and find that date so that they can get their date and start getting the information they need to prepare for orientation. So tell them to be ready, and we're going to send parent reminders too, but if they have paid the enrollment deposit and not done the next step, which is definitely registering for that June or July orientation session, they're going to start getting lots of reminders. So we hope they sign up
With
soon.
Lisa's name on them, with a heart and a smiley face.
And please, please sign up soon. We want to get them through so they can get their classes and feel like official Jayhawks with that. And then this is just the other, we'll put this one out there too. Sometimes students ask about math placement. It has now pivoted to an online exam. Math placement is initially done by their ACT or SAT math score, but if they're not satisfied of where that would take them, they can take the online math placement exam, and they encourage you to do that 2 days before your student to do that 2 days before orientation so that they have those results back. So we'll put that website in the chat as well so that you have that, and again, that information will be shared with your students. So next up, Heidi.
Well, I was just going to add too, we get a common question too about the math placement and foreign language placement. There are also foreign language placements. Not every foreign language, but some foreign languages have that placement. Orientation is going to be sending you all that information, but no, not every student has to take it. It's only if there's a concern with the placement that you would automatically be in based on either your years of experience students with a foreign language or your test score or any AP scores or anything like that is where students then go ahead and take that math placement. But that's absolutely a good reason to look through all of that orientation information to see what it says about the math and the foreign language placements. But no, not every student has to do that.
Next up is housing. Housing is certainly planning to have students move in the resident halls as planned, and majority of our incoming freshmen have already selected their room in the building that they plan to live in. That initial selection took place in April, and if your student has paid the enrollment deposit but not done anything with housing because they're waiting or they're just unsure, but they were planning to live in the resident halls, we certainly encourage them to look at what's available. Their first step, if they've not done anything, is to fill out the housing application and pay the $50 application fee, and that part is non-refundable. And then they would actually be able to select the very next business day their room or building. Right now, there's limited space available. It's in Hashinger and in Stauffer Place, or excuse me, Stauffer Apartments. And then every now and then an additional space becomes available as students change buildings, rooms, change their mind, whatever it might be. But the website listed there, housing.ku.edu/vacancy, does give the most up-to-date information of which resident halls are available, which at this time is Hashinger and Stauffer Apartments. The Stauffer Apartments this is the third year that they will be open and the second year that they're allowing freshmen to live in there. And they have 4 private rooms with private bath in there. And students, if they choose that option, or even if you have recently had concerns about them living in like the resident halls and you'd like to have more private space, you can have your student go in and switch to Stauffer Apartments now if they would be interested in that. The 4 person apartment, they each have their own room and their own bathroom. They share common living space and they share a kitchen. And because of that arrangement, they don't actually have to have a meal plan. And so that's an option still out there available to students. Then there's a 6-person apartment option where 2 of those 4 bedrooms will have bunk beds in it. So there'll be 2 people in those. And then 2 of the other rooms will be the private. And then they'll still share the common living space and the kitchen. But because there's more in that space, they do have to buy the 425 meal plan. That's the minimum plan. They can buy a larger plan if they want. And the 4-person room can also choose a plan if they want. They're just not required to do so. So there's a lot of great information about the different types of resident halls out on the housing website. And so we will put that it's just the generalhousing.ku.edu, and we'll put the link if you wanted to read through like the information about where, if they've already selected a room, if you want to learn more about the building. There's also a housing student handbook out there that lets you know what to bring, not to bring, what you can hang on your wall. We get asked that question quite a bit. And so all of that's available. We also wanted to let you know that I don't even know wasn't it just May 1st? It's almost already the middle of May. And in beginning June 1st, if your student has selected a room in housing and does change their mind anytime after June 1st, then housing cancellation charges do start applying. And so we want to make sure you're familiar with those housing cancellation charges. So we'll put that link also in the chat so you have that information. Hopefully, again, that doesn't happen. But we just wanted you to be aware of that. And then if for some reason KU would not open, which is not the plan, but if they would not open and KU and students were unable to move into the resident halls, there would be no cancellation charges. But that's only if KU didn't allow students to move into the halls. So that's just kind of a quick overview of housing. There is still space available for students. They are guaranteeing space for freshmen as long as they've applied for housing by June 1. But in talking to housing in recent meetings, they'll still have space after that time. It's just they want to encourage students to select as soon as they can. And so we've been asked in most recent webinars, like, are they planning for social distancing? What's the dining hall going to look for? Believe me, they're doing all that planning. They just don't have all those plans outlined right now. But as the chancellor talked earlier in the introduction, everyone is planning for a variety of different scenarios and what that would look like in the fall. So those discussions are certainly taking place, and they have set back some space in the resident halls in case they do need to spread students out. They've already done that. And so there's a lot of planning going on. But as of right now, the plan is for your student to move in the resident hall that they have chosen, and then the dining halls would be open. And how they operated the housing meal plans this spring is the students still had options of what to choose, but it was a brown bag option that they took back to their room, or outside if they wanted to eat outside. But for those who have been on campus before, they know our dining halls do have quite a bit of space, and so their social distancing would be pretty easy to implement even in the dining halls. So Heidi, anything you want to add there for housing?
Just that, as Lisa mentioned, students make a lot of changes daily on that housing, where the students go in and select their building and their room. They make changes daily. They go in and out of rooms, they get a roommate, go somewhere else, they decide to live in a scholarship hall, whatever it is. There's changes that happen all the time. So if your student is still selecting and doesn't see a room quite yet that they're interested in, just know that they can go in daily and change that. So at some point, the closer we get to June, it would be good to select, but then know that they can still go in and change even after June which room or which hall they are in. So that just happens all the time, no matter what our situation is. And I just wanted to give a shout out for the 425 plan that Lisa talked about, that meal plan that is available to students who live off campus or students who live in fraternities, or as Lisa said, the students that live in those 6-person apartments. The 425 plan is a great plan. Basically, it's like a debit card for food on campus. Like that's the only thing they can spend that on. So it just is on, they get it with their KUID, and then it gives them a discount. It's discounted rate. So that's why it would be different than just having them use their own debit card. So this gives them a discounted rate in all the dining facilities, including actual dining halls and just like the food court type areas or hawk shop convenience stores around campus. And then it just deducts throughout the year whatever they spend there. So that was something we did with our son. He was living in a fraternity, and it was a great option for him. The great thing about that one too is it rolls over. It rolls over to the next year. So when he left campus after spring break, he had about $200 left on it, and so we're going to just roll that over to next year. So just wanted to give that shout out. I know that was something I didn't quite understand, if I should do Beacon Bucks or the 425, or I ultimately chose that 425 because it gave them that discounted rate. The Beacon Bucks, just so you know, are good too, because there's some off-campus locations that they can use those at as well. And there's a whole website for the Beacon Bucks. So I don't know if one of our chatters can put that in there so you can learn more about that option too. But they will have all of this information for you at orientation, where you can ask those questions, even of current students, like what did you use and how did you use it? So just a shout out for that. We get quite a few questions about Greek life in your questions when you register for this event. And so first and foremost, we'll start with sorority recruitment. That's coming up quickly. And right now, again, much like the university, they are planning for an in-person sorority formal recruitment this fall. And that information is already on their website, where you can see the guidebook for sorority recruitment, as well as the registration link for sorority recruitment. And what takes place there is the women will move in a little bit earlier into the residence halls, August 16th, and they go through their recruitment at that time. They do not live in the houses their freshman year. They typically don't live in a house until their sophomore year. And so that right now, they're planning on everything is, they're planning on it taking place as is. And of course, as Lisa mentioned, working on those scenarios of social distancing and all the other things that everybody else is having to figure out, everything from social distancing to disinfecting and all those good things. And then for fraternity recruitment, there's a website there for it. It's always kind of a little bit of a mystery of how this process works, not quite as organized as the ladies are as when it comes to the recruitment process. But just so you all know, for men, they typically do live in their house, those chapters, their freshman year. If the house that they join has a physical house, has a physical chapter house, then they'll live there their freshman year. And right now, those fraternities are planning to be open. We just got notice that that's the case for our son, that they're planning on those to be open, and they're working on all the precautions and everything necessary there. They were supposed to have a June formal recruitment. This is a great way for our students that are a little bit further away from our campus to learn more about it, but that got canceled due to all in-person things pretty much being canceled. So they're at this point hoping to have some type of formal fraternity recruitment in the fall. So if you have a student thinking about that and they haven't connected yet or joined a house yet, that would be a good option for them. But just so you know, informal fraternity recruitment happens, again, whether online or in person or any of this, kind of throughout their senior year and the summer before coming here. So this website that we have here, the kuifc.org/individual-chapters, is a great way for your student to reach out directly to the recruitment chairs and say, I am interested. Are you going to be having a formal recruitment process that I can learn more about your fraternity? So I would encourage them to make those connections. And then, as Lisa mentioned, with housing, after June 1, it's really important that you all pay attention to cancellation fees, because if there is someone who went in, selected a room, and then after June 1 decided they are going to join a fraternity, they will be responsible for those cancellation fees. So really check those out before you actually go in and select a room if your student is kind of deciding on that route. But as Lisa said, again, if something were to change and we're not in person, there are no cancellation fees. But assuming we are in person and everything is normal, be on the lookout for those cancellation fees for any reason. And we always do get questions about that and fraternities.
All right. Some important dates. We were just talking about housing, and a lot of people ask, when do we get to move into housing? Heidi mentioned there is some early dates for sorority, and some students are in marching band and other organizations that move in a little bit earlier, and that would be communicated to the students. But the general move-in date is planned for August 20th. And even prior to COVID, we've always had such a wonderful and streamlined process of moving into the resident halls. It's very well coordinated, well orchestrated. Any parents out there already moved in a student, feel free to raise your hand and hopefully give a thumbs up that it went very smoothly. But know that your student will be sent that information. I just did receive an update from housing yesterday to say that they're still working out all those details, but that communication will be sent to the students as it has been in the past, of when they actually, what time on August 20th they move in. If they don't move in on the 20th, that's fine, but that's the earliest they can move in, and they'll be given a time slot to come to campus to move into the resident halls. Heidi mentioned that once you, and she'll give you some more parent tips on this, but once your student does enroll in classes, whether it's in their June or July orientation session, their bill will actually be out there to view, but the actual email that will be generated, because they're not mailed anymore, but the actual email that will be sent to say the bill's out there doesn't actually take place until August 21st. But Heidi will give you some tips on that, because you can go out there earlier than that and already start making a payment on it if you'd like to do that. So she has great parent perspective on that. Classes are supposed to start on August 24th as planned. The first fall bill is due on September 15th. And that bill, just so you know, would include your tuition and fees, any of your housing costs, the dining costs. And then during orientation, your student is, they learn about like signing up for a parking permit, signing up for the all sports combo, which costs $175. And those fees are, those additional things they sign up for, those fees are added to the bill as well. So don't be surprised when you get that bill if there's other things on there listed. And then the other date that's important to know is we are certainly planning to have an awesome football season, bring back the sports. Can't wait for sports to start back up. And November 7th is the scheduled date for Parent Weekend. And if this is your first student coming to KU, usually that's just around a football game, but they are hoping to have some different planned activities as well that weekend. And if your student is like in a fraternity or in the honors program or in different organizations, they tend to have like different tailgates as well. And then I also wanted to mention that not only when they move into the resident halls on August 20th, they do have Hawk Week activities leading up, not only to the first day of class, but that entire first week. And because orientation was moved online, they're definitely planning some more robust programming for that Hawk Week to get students acclimated to KU, get them excited, share about our awesome traditions, which they do anyway, but they're hoping to have even some more programming during that Hawk Week. In fact, there's a meeting this afternoon to start planning even additional activities. So lots of things and lots of planning going on to make that freshman year amazing for your student.
Yeah, and just to let everybody know that Hawk Week, that's typically where we'll do all those, there's the different living organization meetings, there's the traditions night. Some events are required that students go to. I feel like most of the living organizations do a really good job of kind of making all of it feel required. The more the students do, the more they get connected to KU. We find overwhelmingly that students that get involved with Hawk Week, they are the students that feel connected. They are the ones that retain. They graduate on time. That's how important that connection is in that first few weeks. And there'll also be other sessions like job fairs, the student organization fair, the 600 plus organizations that the chancellor talked about. So all during that Hawk Week time is a way to connect and broaden their experience, making KU smaller by finding those little individual groups and organizations to become involved with. As Lisa mentioned, the bills generated, she always leaves that fun conversation of the bills and how that works to me. So last year going through with it was my first year, and I was curious on how it would all play out, but we get a common question of, do we have payment plans? So just so you all know, the university sets it up for 2 payments, one for the fall semester and one for the spring. And of course, if your student does summer, there's a summer payment. But the bigger ones are the fall and the spring. So any of the fall charges, that's the bill that's due September 15th. We do partner with a company that helps us with a payment plan. But how that payment plan works is it basically sets it up so that families can make the payments in July, August, and September. So it makes it like a 3 payment plan. And instead of it being due on September 15th, it's due on September 30th. So it's basically a 3 payment plan, which does extend the date a couple weeks. I found that what I could do, once my student enrolled, those charges automatically started going out into his enroll and pay. So we could kind of create our own payment plan. We didn't really need to set it up with somebody. We just, if you decided that, hey, we want to split it up between a couple paychecks or a couple credit card bills or whatever it is, that you could set it your own. You could go in and pay July, and then some in August, and then some in September. So you're kind of making your own payment plan when you do it that way. And just so you know, they do allow credit cards. There is a fee that goes with the credit card. And so I personally, my husband made fun of me. I totally nerded out on this, but I went through and said, okay, would I get more credits from using my credit card, for the benefit of my Southwest flight points, or would it be better just to not have that extra charge? And so I went through and calculated it and found out that I wouldn't actually get as many points, and it wasn't a benefit to me. So we went ahead and just did with the electronic check. There's no fee with the electronic check. So that's the route that we went there. But it is nice to know that the credit card is an option if we needed to do that. And then we also got some questions on the registrations about 529s. And you can work directly with your 529. They can either pay KU directly, or you can have the payment go directly to you and then you pay KU. You just need to make sure you're holding on to any of those receipts that they're using for tuition or housing or whatever it might be. I found that was the easy route for me. I like to see where the money is going myself, and so I had it come directly to me, and then we paid. And then of course, this is all after the financial aid had been applied, like my student's loan and all of those good things. So after that kind of got settled out, then that's when we worked with the 529 option. And then I just wanted to put a shout out too for the parents, the Parent Family Day, that we did hear already that the KU Endowment Association is going to be hosting a general tailgate on the Hill. So if no matter what organization or housing option your students involved with, they are doing kind of a first come first serve Family Day tailgate on the Hill, and that will be new this year. So I'm excited to see about that.
And we did put a payment plan website there, and there is information even on that website about the 529 and how to do that at KU if you would like to do that. And here's just a few other important websites that we'd like to mention to you. We'll put these in the chat as well. But at any time you do have questions about your student's academic major, you can learn more at that website. We also have, if you have general questions, we encourage them to contact their admissions rep. They should know who that is by now. They've received several emails from their admissions rep, but if they don't know who it is, the website is there to find out who their admissions rep is. It's based on location. And same with financial aid. If your student has filed the FAFSA or received a scholarship, or you have questions, finances have changed, whatever it might be, we encourage you to contact your financial aid counselor. We've been sending financial aid award letters via email since middle of February, and those financial aid award notifications were sent to your student as well as to the parent, and the financial aid counselor was right there on the very front page of that financial aid award notification, so you should have that as well. But if not, you can find, just click on that website. It's based on last name, and so you can find that information there. And those are great resources. Your admissions rep, your financial aid counselor, or if then you have very specific questions about academics, between now and orientation, you could find a contact on our website, or you can just wait until orientation at this point since it's coming up so quickly. So
yeah, I just wanted to give a shout out to the financial aid counselors too, that, you know, any situation that you have where things have changed since you filed that FAFSA, whether there's a special circumstance, maybe there's a loss of income, in any type of change that you feel like is having an impact, definitely reach out to your financial aid counselor and talk to them, because they can help you before orientation starts, before you get the bill. It's better to do all of that, start having those conversations before that happens. I am going to stop sharing my screen, and we have already changed it where you can go ahead and put questions into the chat. I'm also putting it on here that you can unmute yourself, and if you want to ask a question at any time, feel free to do that. And so putting your question in the chat, I know some of you prefer that, and I want to give a big shout out to our admissions staff personnel that are on there answering those. You'll see some names: Casey Bray, Amy Nelson, Brian Palermo, Nancy Stoms, Angie Bass. They're all there to help you and answer some of those questions. But do know too, we're happy to have those in-person questions if you feel comfortable and just unmuting yourself. Let's get into it. Let's get those questions answered.
I'll take the first one. So with deferment, okay, so here's the very basics of deferment. If KU is in person and you're planning to defer, we have not reached a final decision of how that's going to affect your student's scholarship, because in the past, if a student deferred, didn't come here as right out of high school and went somewhere else, and even if it was just one class, they were then a transfer student. But with COVID, things have changed and there's many discussions taking place. So before you officially decide to defer, you want to make sure you know whether or not, if your student has a scholarship, whether or not that scholarship is going to be available. That decision has not been made official yet. We're hoping to have that decision made very soon. But if they were just going to defer anyway, and it didn't matter about the scholarship, or they don't have a scholarship, all they have to do is update it at admissions.ku.edu/update. We'll have one of the chatters put it in there. They do not have to fill out another application. We don't want them filling out another application, actually. They don't have to pay the application fee again. They just do an update in the update form to change what term they are going to defer to, whether that's the spring term of 21, summer 21, or fall 21. If it's beyond 2021 terms, they would have to fill out another application. But for anything in 2021, they just fill out the update form. But as I mentioned, the big question that we've been getting along with deferment is, do they still get their freshman scholarship? And that has not yet been determined. And so once we have that determination, we will be putting that out and available as we can. A gap year is a little, well, it depends. Okay, we get that question asked a lot as well, Scott. Thank you. Is a gap year different than deferment? Well, it kind of depends, because sometimes when a student says they're doing a gap year, our first question to them is, are they receiving college credit? Like when they're studying abroad, if they're doing a gap year and they're studying abroad, are they receiving college credit? And they usually say yes. A gap year is when you're truly not doing anything related to college. You're not going to get any college credit. That's what the true definition of a gap year is. If at any point in time a student takes one class or is getting credit for study abroad or whatever, then they are no longer considered a freshman at most colleges and universities. They're considered a transfer student. So if they're taking a gap year and they're truly working and they're not taking classes, then that is a gap year, and they would have their freshman scholarship would remain. Our hope is that their freshman scholarship will still remain, even if they're taking like some online classes just because they want to stay home one semester, things like that. But at KU, that decision has not been officially made yet.
And then there was a question about if for some reason in-person classes aren't an option come fall and they are offered online, will tuition and fees be adjusted specifically for out-of-state students? Great question. So that is a big conversation piece. And yes, the university is looking at rates that make sense based on it being online. So although they haven't set those specifically yet, they are definitely making sure that they're taking into account, you know, a student being out of state and being online is pretty much the same thing as a student being in state taking online, with the difference that taxpayer money in Kansas goes to the university. And so they try to always take into account that there is a difference of residency or not, but definitely looking at a different rate, a more comparable rate, a more fair rate based on that they're not in person here. And so just know that, yes, they are talking about that. They're making that part of their consideration about what that rate would look like, not only for our out-of-state, but also our in-state students too, what would be a good and fair rate. Again, for, you know, world-class education at an AAU Research One institution, but not having the in-person experience. So that's definitely what they're working on right now.
Scott also asked if there's an ETA on when the deferment would be decided. I'm hoping this month. I'll ask again. I have another meeting tomorrow, so I'll ask when that decision will be made and when we can have information about that. I'm hoping the month of May, but I'm not the decision maker on that one, so I don't know for sure. Melissa asked about federal financial aid. Do you accept by the semester or by the school year? It's by the school year, but it's distributed by semester. The deadline typically is in the May timeframe, but they have not said when the final deadline is there. So if your student was awarded a merit-based scholarship, it's already been accepted for them. They don't have to go in and accept merit-based scholarships. It's just those loans or work study or other things that you'd have to go in and accept. And we haven't heard an official date. They will eventually put a deadline on it. I haven't heard June 30th, but I don't know if that's been communicated to you by someone, but we hadn't heard June 30th. I don't know if you had, Heidi. From what I understand, it's going to be sometime this summer. And so what financial aid would be, what they would do is if students have like paid the enrollment deposit or enrolled and they have not yet accepted aid, if there winds up being a deadline, from what I understand, they would communicate out and say, you need to go in and do this by a certain date or it will be canceled. But I haven't heard what that date would be.
And then Suzanne asked if classes are in person, will students be required to wear face masks on campus? As you can probably imagine, we're going to say we haven't heard officially if that's the case or not. But I do know conversations are taking place around what are traffic patterns on campus? What should that look like? What should class sizes look like? What should, you know, disinfecting of the use of spaces look like? Should there be plexiglass options in certain areas? All of those things are being talked about. So I can only imagine face masks are being talked about as well. But we have not heard an official, yes, we're open and yes, this will be required.
Danny asked an excellent follow-up question about online tuition. Danny, that's going to completely vary. Again, and that will be part of the decision when once we have a pricing structure for online, we would let you know how that affects your scholarship, because if it's a completely different price, your scholarship most likely wouldn't apply the same, because it's not the same. It's your scholarship, your student scholarship is based on the in-state and out-of-state tuition rates. So that would all be rolled out when the amount that it costs for online would be. So my guess, if the cost of online is significantly less than non-resident, your scholarship would definitely not be the same, because that's not how the scholarship works. So but stay tuned on that.
And then there was a question too, when will the students receive information on online orientation? The students and the parents, after you've been admitted, should have already received information on that, but have no fear, you can easily go to the First Year Experience website. If one of our chatters can put that in there, if you haven't already, put that website in there, and then the student can just go in and register directly there. It has all the information they would need that they would have received in that email. So just going to that website, and that's where they register for orientation and get more information. And I want to just pause just a second if there's anybody that wants to just unmute themselves and ask a question and not have to sort through all the chats and Q&A and things like that. If anybody is interested in that, now's a good time to do that. We want to pause.
So is there a target date, Leroy and Janina from McKinney, Texas? Is there a target date for making a decision on whether classes will be in person or online only for the fall semester?
Great question, and that is an adorable picture, by the way. Love that. No, there isn't a target date for making that yet. And the reason for that is because every time I've heard our chancellor talk about that, is they're making the decision based on what is the most up-to-date, most recent information that we need from both the county and the state, and in the region, to see what we need to do. And we feel like that's still kind of an ever-changing situation. And so although there's not a very specific date to say 100% this is happening, because we can't predict what could possibly happen, the best that they're saying right now is that the plan is to be on campus. Everything is moving forward in that direction. And if anything were to change that, I think that would be the bigger thing. It's not so much as when are we going to say yes? It's more of, if something were to happen to change that, that would happen not based on a date that anybody is aware of. So that would only happen if something changes in the path that we're at right now, as far as the phase-in of our state and our county and our campus. And there's only if something gets in the way of that, would that change? So that's why there's not a specific date as of right now. The date is now that we're saying we're going to be in person, and it would only change if something changes, quite frankly, with the virus. Thank you for that question. Anybody else want to unmute and ask a question? Okay, well, feel free to do that at any time. Lisa, do you want to go into any of the others in the chat?
Hey, this is Gina.
Oh, hi, Gina.
I was wondering where, for things like extracurriculars, like trying out for theater plays, things like that, where do the incoming freshmen learn about that? Because I know some of those things may start happening pretty quickly.
Yeah, and that's where the orientation really kind of kicks off the start of all of that and all of those connections. So once they go through orientation and they are for sure registered for classes, and they do have declared interest, that's where a lot of that information starts happening. And so for one, they'll get that information through their major and at orientation. But let's say, for example, they're not in that major, but they still want to do the performances, which I think is one of the great things about KU, is that you can be involved with music ensembles and theater productions and things like that without having to major in it. That would be just a matter of going directly to those areas and communicating with them directly of their interest. And I know that they basically take all those student information and they'll change it to an online format of informing if they need to, if classes aren't going to be here and in person.
Thank you.
Yeah.
Oh, Heidi, you've said the AAU World Class Institution a couple times, so someone asked what that means. We're proud that the University of Kansas is a member of the Association of American Universities, the AAU, which means we're a top-tier Research One university, which means your students are being taught by top faculty members, that we have this very strong research focus, but at the same time, those faculty are teaching undergraduate students, and it just gives a level of academic strength to the education your student is receiving at the University of Kansas. So we really feel like we are one of 34 public, is that right, Heidi? 34 public universities that are a member of the AAU. And we're just very proud of that distinction of the strong academics that your student is will be receiving here at the University of Kansas. So Heidi, if there's anything you want to add to that, since you had mentioned that, and then someone also asked if their freshmen should bring a car. Well, it feels like most freshmen bring 3 cars. No, I'm just kidding. But that's truly a personal choice, whether or not they bring a car or not. And Heidi, if you want to talk about any of those things.
Yeah, the car, just for us personally as a family, how we handled that, KU does allow that to happen. We decided our first semester to not allow our son to have a car on campus, and that worked great. And for whatever reason, I do not know, we decided the second semester, well, let's go ahead and let him have a car on campus. And it was fine, but I actually kind of preferred that freshman year of him not having it on campus, because I feel like it's kind of like a forced, you stay there and you get to know people and you have to communicate if you do need a ride. And it's easy to do. I mean, there's no need for a car on campus. They can get around. There's a bus system that is paid for by their tuition and fees already. That bus system gets them around campus. It gets them off campus. So there's really no reason. We do know that students, that like to have the car to be able to get home and whatnot, that's usually the biggest reason why people still have a car on campus. But they definitely figure out quickly, like, how to get around and how to use the bus system and how to use their resources. So definitely not needed. And like I said, if I had to do it all over again, I would say not at all the first year for sure. And I don't know if there's any other KU parents on here, if you want to put something in the chat about that too, about your experience. Maybe you have a different experience with that. Feel free to do that. But yeah, as Lisa talked about with the Association of American Universities, this is the group of universities we're part of are the other large public universities that you think of, the university ofs like Michigan and Ohio State, and a lot of those universities. And then those really small private universities, very selective, like some of the Ivy League schools. These are the schools that are in the peer set of the AAUs. And so it's this distinction that not only plays out well for your students when they're in the classroom, but attracts the top faculty members across the country and the world, because they know their research is going to be supported at an AAU institution. And what makes KU a little bit different as an AAU is there's a huge focus on the undergraduate students. So you have this research focus that trickles all the way down to our undergraduate students, where they have that option of doing research while they're an undergraduate student in whatever their discipline is. And then our size. We are about 20,000 undergraduate students, and that actually puts us in the smaller size of those public AAUs that Lisa was talking about. So you have the resources coming in as an AAU research institution, but it's a little bit smaller, so it's spread around to a lot more students, and which gives them a lot more interactions with faculty members, a lot more opportunities with research, and it is a differentiating maker in their time here at KU to have some of those faculty members too that are literally creating creating new knowledge, and they get to have them as professors. They could be the author of their textbook, and that's who they're getting when they choose KU. So that's a little bit about what that is.
Lori, that's an excellent question. I had not heard that honors orientation was full, so let me send an email out to orientation and check on that. So, or you can also email them at firstyear@ku.edu. That happened in one of our other parent webinars. We found out a major was full, and first year experience just hadn't caught it yet, and they reopened some spots. So I'm not sure about that, but I'll shoot my contact over a quick email. And you can also email first year. I'll type it here. Anytime you have questions about orientation or anything like that, or you see things like that and you have questions, you can email them. They're really responsive via email. So I put their email right out there. But I will check on it too.
Do we have any parents out there of current KU students? No, not everybody has their video on. How about KU alumni in the group? Yeah, there you are. Don't be shy. Not going to make you start singing the alma mater or anything. Unless you want to. It's fine. Kelly, I see you're in Highlands Ranch. I used to teach at Thunder Ridge High School back in kind of mid-90s, right after it opened.
My kids are graduating from Mountain Vista.
Oh, nice. Isn't that really close to Thunder Ridge?
Yes, it's just down the street.
Yeah. Yeah, that wasn't open when I was there. Other questions that you guys have either for the chat or if you want to unmute?
Hi, this is Deanna. Did you
Hi.
mention this in the beginning? I missed the first 30 minutes. Are the dorm structure going to change in the fall? Are they looking at that as a possibility?
Really good question. So they're definitely looking at that as a possibility, depending on what the situation is as we get closer. So that is part of their consideration as they're thinking about people selecting rooms now and how that impacts social distancing if that comes into play. So they are making kind of backup plans if that were to happen. That is something that's taking place now. But as of now, everything's moving forward as normal. The rooms they've selected, the buildings they've selected to be in person, but any of those changes that need to be in place, they're having backup plans available, which is keeping them all very busy right now, trying to figure out how that would take place. But just for example, they did hold back some rooms from your students being able to select them because they wanted to make sure they had some space options available if they did have to change it. Good question. Yeah, you bet.
So basically, we should all just kind of plan as normal, as if it was 2019. It was like a year ago, pretend.
Right.
We should just plan like this is just going to be a normal fall.
Yeah.
Except they might be bringing masks with them.
Exactly. With the caveat of knowing we have this back here that could change any number of things that we didn't have in 2019. But yes, that is the plan right now. And as the Chancellor and Lisa mentioned in the beginning too, as we know any changes to that plan, we will make sure we get that out to you as fast as we can possibly get that, whether that's in the form of an email, another webinar, on the coronavirus.ku.edu webpage. We want to make sure we get any of those changes to you as fast as possible.
Yeah, I would fully agree. I mean, that's certainly, for example, we don't even know when we are returning to campus yet. We haven't been given, we're doing it in phases as well. So we're all still working. We're in our 9th week of working from home. Heidi and I happen to be in the office today because we didn't want to have any problems with our Zoom. And so we can come into the office, but like not the entire KU staff, faculty and staff are working from campus yet. We haven't even been given that. We have been, and that brings me to a point we usually bring up, we have been asked in the past if you can come visit campus. You are certainly welcome to drive. I know a lot of shelters in place have lifted. You're welcome to drive and come walk around the KU campus. It's a gorgeous campus, but buildings right now are still closed until the campus has reopened. And that right now is in a 5-phase plan. The research facilities were opening and people were returning to their research labs, but the buildings were still going to remain locked. And so that is part of that overall plan of KU. And then we're continuing to offer virtual visits and webinars as we are doing today. And we're starting to already recruit the 2021 class as well. They'll start applying to KU in July. And so we're trying to get everything finalized with our fall 2020 students, and then at the same time it'll overlap in the 2021, the students who are rising seniors will start applying too. So but like Heidi said, we certainly hope that's the plan. That's certainly our goal, and to plan as it is, and we will certainly keep you posted. We hope that you have found the communication we've been sending has been helpful. We've been sending frequent emails to the students and the parents, and so we hope you have found that helpful, and we will continue to communicate as we know more. But right now, the most recent emails we sent out is kind of the same place we're at as of this week. We know it's already been a little over an hour, so if some of you have to leave, feel free to do that. But Heidi and I will continue to stay on as long as we need to make sure your questions are answered. So feel free to unmute yourself or continue to ask them in the chat. And if we missed one of your questions in the chat, feel free to do a shout out or let us know, or chat at us privately, whatever you need to do. Thanks.
Will there be specifics out on the COVID website talking about how, I know recently the senators and everybody started talking about how they might be testing college students on some type of schedule? Did you guys hear about that yet?
I haven't heard about that specifically yet. I do know that any of those type of updates or mandates, yes, definitely would take place in any of our update locations, whether again, it's that website. If we get if we were to get that confirmed, we would communicate that via email or possibly another webinar. But yeah, no, that has not trickled to us yet. But that would be included in any of those other updates we've talked about.
Okay, thank you.
Yeah. Janet, Mizzou, I see you there. Love having your student. Glad you could join us.
We're a little bit reluctant, but we're starting to get used to the idea.
I got a sense of that.
My most important question for you is, did you put your Rock Chalk Ready sign in your yard?
We wouldn't let her.
Oh, come on. Columbia needs some of that if that's where you live. Come on.
No, we're in Kansas City, and it's.
Oh, okay. Come on.
She's going to high school today, so I was thinking about letting her put it out there with her high school signs.
There we go.
I'm trying. I'll get there. Thank you.
No, I actually think there's a lot of similarities between MU and KU, and that's part of what makes that rivalry so intense, because there are so many similarities. So, but we're glad to have her.
For your help, everyone.
Yeah, thank you for attending. Appreciate you being here.
We have
and then
daughters that will be joining you in the fall. So.
Did you say 2?
Yes.
Oh my gosh. Wow, I can't imagine this times 2 or times 3 in Lisa's niece's cases. And
Yeah, that's, for empty nesters, from 4 to empty nesters that help us.
Move to Lawrence.
yeah,
Lawrence is a great place to live. That's my. Did you say you're in Florida?
No, we're in
Overland Park.
Florida. Yeah,
Oh,
we-
Overland Park. Move to Lawrence. Yeah, totally move to Lawrence. Are you're sending two? Are they boys or girls?
$2.
$2. Okay.
Yeah.
They'll have to meet my nieces.
We're open to it. Sure.
Yeah.
Very
Yeah.
excited.
Yeah, but that's going to be a big change for you guys.
Yeah, it is. So we'll take our video off now before you see us start crying.
Oh.
Big change. Come visit them often. Come shop
will.
on Mass Street.
Thank you again.
Thank you.
You're welcome.
And then Gina, I did see your question in there about, yes, we are mailing the Rock Chalk Ready sign. So after a student has paid their enrollment deposit, both the student and the parent should be getting an email about that. If for some reason you can't find that email or whatever, no problem. Nancy, if you could also put in Gina Bird Stadler's email in there. Gina Bird Stadler is the person who coordinates those yard signs, and she can work directly with you to help you if you haven't gotten that. And then, yeah, I see that Nancy put in the website for Slavic languages. I believe, because not all languages require the placement. So I think there's the languages, a general languages website that will take them to there to see if that language actually requires it. So I can get on there when I mute myself here and see if I can find something more specific to that. Yeah, thanks, Brian. That's a good place to show exactly what languages require those, or encourage, not even require, but require, that encourage those placement exams.
Again, if you have any questions, let us know. You guys have asked some great questions, and we hope you have found this update to be helpful. We certainly can't wait to welcome your Jayhawks here in the fall, and it's going to fly by if it's anything like the month of May so far. So we know you have busy schedules taking place in May and possibly June and July if your actual in-person high school graduation was postponed, like many schools have already done. So we know there's some virtual celebrations going on and some rescheduled in person. So we wish you the best and hope you keep that Rock Chalk Ready sign for all those celebrations.
Thank you for your time today.
Thank
And
you.
I look forward to our next one. Each time you guys have these, I learn a little bit more and I get more questions answered.
Yeah, it's a lot of information. It's a fire hose situation where I know we're giving you lots of info, and please do join us anytime. Appreciate it, and follow up with any questions you have too.
And then there'll be emails for the next meetings that we can register for.
Yeah, right now, we do have one scheduled for next Wednesday, right, Lisa? It's Wednesday
Mhm.
now, right? So next Wednesday, and then we don't have any other ones scheduled yet for June, but we will schedule that if we're finding that there's a lot of information that's changed, and we would definitely send out another email about that then.
Otherwise, the next meeting will actually be the kids' orientation.
Right.
Exactly,
You got it.
exactly. They will
And
have the most up-to-date info at that
And there
point.
will be parent meetings within that, right?
well, their parent meetings not on that day. There's going to be some pre-recorded sessions that you can watch. So the first year experience office has said you don't really have to take the entire day off of work. The student sessions are really designed for the students. They have a student to student session with their orientation leader, which is a current KU student, and then other students. And then they'll have a couple other sessions. Heidi knows more because she was able to attend that yesterday. And then they'll have that individual advising session. But there's not any specific parent sessions that day that you would have to go to. It's mainly those sessions for your student, and then some things that even your student should do in advance on Blackboard, or some pre-recorded sessions to watch as they want to.
Yeah, and they said yesterday that not only are there the sessions before, there's information that will come before orientation, then of course there's information during orientation, but they said specifically a parent track that will happen after orientation as well. And they said it will they can have it be on demand or live. So if you miss the live version, you can do the on demand and just watch it whenever. So they said there would be a parent track. It's just they didn't have an exact date of when they're going to release like what those dates are.
Okay.
But yeah, like Lisa said, the day of, it's definitely focused on student information, what they need to know for both advising and enrollment, and the services that they need to know. But the parents, of course, are a huge part of that, and they always like to have advising and enrollment take place with just the student and the advisor, because they're trying to get them to be their advocates for themselves, and so they like to keep that focused directly on just the student and the advisor. But we understand in the online situation, there's just some of the information's going to be presented in a different way. There might be more questions, and so but just know that they want to make sure that both you and your student are comfortable with it, with the various forms of delivery formats.
The timeline for that day, is that going to be in their personal email or in their KU email?
Personal
Like what?
email. We don't start sending to the KU email until classes actually start in August. So everything will be
Okay.
still communicated to the other email that they used on their application.
Okay. And the agenda, like the timetable for the orientation day, that has not come out yet, correct?
Right.
Okay. Just want to make sure we didn't miss anything yet.
Right.
Okay.
I know, right? Lots of emails that go out.
We just need to get through this next. We are 1 week from quote graduation.
Same. Well, not graduation, just 1 week being done with school. Can't wait.
And yeah, well, 7 p.m. next Wednesday, the quote video pops up, which is the graduation ceremony, but in some type of video that we get.
And where are you at, Deanna?
Arlington Heights, Illinois, up in
Oh.
northern Illinois.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
That's nice, though. That's a nice little touch.
Yeah.
I know locally here, the schools have given dates for graduation in July. It'll be interesting to see if they can still hold that. Usually they do it inside, but now they're doing it outside to kind of help with that. But it'll be interesting to see what ends up happening with graduation.
Yeah,
So
we're still a
Go-
very no touch, nothing.
Yeah.
Oh, yeah, you're still shelter in place till end of May, right? In Illinois?
Oh, I'm Illinois. I am
Yeah.
Cook County.
Yep.
Yeah. So if you hear about Chicago, which is the bulk of Cook County, I'm the Keller. I'm like 30 minutes away from Chicago, but I'm in Cook County. So if you see Pritzker, that's me.
Well, happy graduation to your student, though. My nieces had to go pick up their cap and gowns, and it was like they were just so embarrassed because they were using this really loud speaker to call their name, and they had to just pull up their car to get it. And they were all embarrassed just for that. They're not enjoying the process very much.
No, our pickup for cap and gown and the empty diploma case, because you get the diploma case, but no diploma yet. That, and then we did that a couple weeks ago because we had to take a picture in it and send it via Google Doc back to the school. And then this Friday is the exchange of books and materials that they no longer need because of finals. That is to be picked up, and then they went through the entire school and bagged up anything that was in a student's locker and put it into a garbage bag. And basically that day and this Friday looks like a move-in day on a university, where you follow this little roadmap through the parking lot. You open up your trunk and you put a piece of paper in your front window that says the child's name and their school ID. And when you get to your spot in line, you pop your trunk, and they either remove something from your trunk or add something to your trunk. And then they give you the thumbs up, and then you drive off.
Wow, that's quite the process.
That is the only interaction we have with the school right now, other than, they Zoom or have whatever kind of activities, online with video conferencing and stuff. But otherwise, that is the only thing that they've had since the second week of March. So with that happy note,
with that celebration,
with that celebration and the fact that we had frost and flurries only a few days ago.
I know. It's 50 degrees here today. I'm like, where's my nice weather in May? Come on, be nice.
Yeah.
Yes, exactly.
We're still, you name it, and we have the season still.
Yeah, right.
So
Yes.
it's okay. But
It is.
I will sign off. I'm looking forward to eventually coming down there.
Awesome. We look forward to that day too.
Yeah, and we just got a refrigerator, so we're moving forward.
Awesome. I love it. Getting things checked off the list.
Exactly. Well, thank
All
you,
right.
ladies.
Well, thank
and
you
I'll
very
listen
much.
again in a couple weeks.
All right. Thanks, guys. Thank you so much.
Thank you.
We'll be signing off in a few minutes, unless anyone has some remaining questions. So we'll give you a couple more minutes, and then if not, we'll be signing off as well. And we appreciate you being here, and it's always great to see all of you to provide some updates of where we're at for KU. So thank you all. Nice to see you. Hey, there's Laura Ann. Look, Heidi, it's Laura Ann from Colorado back over there.
Okay, well, I think we're gonna end the meeting. Laura Ann, it's good to see you, and hopefully there was some new bits and pieces of info in there, and appreciate you guys logging in, and appreciate you trusting your students with us, and we love to have them as Jayhawks, and just really looking forward to getting through this and having them back on campus, and
Rock Chalk, everyone. Happy Wednesday.
Rock Chalk. Thanks for tuning in.